Toy Story 4 is directed by Josh Cooley and stars all of the gang coming back for a new adventure when a new toy called Forky joins Woody and the gang along a road trip alongside old and new friends and reveals how big the world can be for a toy. Let me start off this review by saying that I was the first to discredit Toy Story 4. As soon as the movie was announced a few years ago back at D23, I was really not looking forward to it based on the idea that Toy Story 3 was the perfect conclusion to a pretty much perfect trilogy. I believe the Toy Story trilogy is as close as you can get to a perfect trilogy in Hollywood. So the idea of them returning to the franchise to produce a fourth film was something that was not exactly an idea that was appealing to me. On top of that, I just felt like all the trailers that came out for this movie, the basis upon the story, it just didn't look like it was intriguing enough or specifically good enough to actually justify and warrant this sequel into the franchise. But with new reviews coming out for the film and, with me rewatching the trilogy in the build-up, it got me very, very excited for Toy Story 4 in the end. And with me now eventually seeing the movie, how do I feel about it? Well, let's find out. Plus, I have to add that I am a huge fan of the Toy Story franchise. Like I said, I love the movies and I have my toys surrounding me. I managed to dig these out of the garage over the weekend, specifically for this review. As you can see, I'm a big Toy Story fan and I'm a big Pixar fan. So going into this movie, I wanted to love it and I really wanted to enjoy it and just get lost in the adventure. But how did the movie truly fare? I will start off with the positives. One, the animation in this film is absolutely incredible. You would expect nothing less from Pixar at this point after seeing all the films they've done, seeing how the animation has progressed throughout the years. Even going from Toy Story 3 to Toy Story 4, you can really see the difference in animation, how groundbreaking the animation truly can be. There's a scene specifically at the beginning of the film that really has a lot of rain and really interesting weather effects, and the animation, the way it's portrayed through animation, is absolutely breathtaking, and it's one of those scenes that really just personifies why Pixar is the king of animation in Hollywood at this point. And all the voice casts returning in this movie do an absolutely incredible job, whether you're talking about Tom Hanks and Tim Allen as Woody and Buzz, or you're talking about, obviously, we even have like Don Rickles who reprises the role of Mr. Potato Head through old voice recordings. Of course, Don Rickles has unfortunately passed away. We also have the new cast members like Tony Hale voicing Forky, who was very good, especially bringing out the anxiety side of Forky. He did a really good job with that. We have, Key and Peele voicing Ducky and Bunny. They were a great addition to the cast, as long as the god himself, Keanu Reeves, playing Duke Kaboom. There was just so many awesome voice cast members, and they all do an incredible job, as they have done throughout the entire series, and the new cast members as well. Now, a character who made her return in this film was the character of Bo Peep, who we had last seen in Toy Story 2. Not only does this film explain the gap between Toy Story 2 and 3 and why she was not in the third film, but it also gives us a new version of the character that we had not experienced before, and also introduces a new element into the film and into the franchise that had yet to be explored, and the idea of being a lost toy. The idea that Bo Peep had been gone and had been out on her own for all these years and has just continued to live her own life and has continued to be her own person is a really interesting element to bring into a franchise like Toy Story, especially given what they've established in the franchise thus far. To actually take that idea and completely run with it, especially with the idea of Woody's arc in this movie, it was really good to bring Bo Peep into this, and the actress who plays her also reprises the role, and she is fantastic. And Bo Peep honestly was probably the best character for me in this movie. She was just really fun, really interesting, badass, capable, just a really interesting and fun character to watch on screen, and a nice return. And again, it wasn't just bringing back the character, it was bringing back a new version of the character that we had never seen before, and thus leading us into this new theme that was a really big player for the movie overall. And as I just mentioned, Woody's arc in this movie really comes full circle, and that's what I really like about Woody's arc in this film, is I really like where he ends up. I really like particularly the ending. Obviously no spoilers, but I really love the ending of the film, and I really like where Woody ends up, especially when he goes through the entire series and you look at where he ends up. I think it's a really good arc for him overall, and I feel like where he ends up, I think fans are going to be really pleased with the overall ending, although I feel like the ending itself is a little unearned given where they went with the movie and given how Woody kind of progressed throughout the film. The actual goal itself by itself I think is a really nice ending and a really great conclusion to Woody's arc. However, now I must move into the negatives, and I have to say that I was really not a fan of Toy Story 4. I thought that this movie was honestly quite bad, and I feel like the movie is not only bad by Pixar standards, but I feel like this movie is a really bad film, objectively speaking, and I really don't understand where all the good reviews for this movie has come from. Like I say, there are redeeming qualities, there are positives, as I've just been through, but I feel like overall this movie, it just does not hold up to the other three whatsoever. It doesn't hold up to the caliber that you would expect from Pixar at this point. This movie is really, really disappointing, and a lot of that comes down to so many different elements. For one, I feel like the main villain of this movie, Gaby, is a really poorly done villain. She is introduced as this character who is inside of this antique shop, which is a big player in this film. and she's introduced as this character who is just desperate to be played with. She just wants to be loved, and she wants to be cherished just like Woody was. And by the end of the movie, they try and make her out to be this sympathetic villain. And again, no spoilers, I'm not going to spoil anything in the movie, but they try and make her out to be this sympathetic villain, and it doesn't line up with anything that happened in the movie whatsoever. And I feel like the way she interacts with Woody could have been handled so much better. There's a particular moment in the film between Woody and Gaby, which is supposed to be this pretty big moment, but I feel like it could have been handled in another specific way, which would have been so much better and also so much more reflective of Woody's arc in the movie if he would have gone down that route rather than the route the movie actually takes. And it makes Gaby feel like a very inconsistent character. Also, pretty much every story beat in this movie has been done before. I mean, the Toy Story films often do repeat their story beats. That's a big part of them, and a lot of them do repeat the same kind of stories. But besides the whole Bo Peep lost toy thing, the movie has literally been entirely done before in every aspect. The idea of, toys being lost, the idea of, the kids losing their toys and being worried about them, the idea of toys being replaced and things like that. All these different ideas have all been done before, so when they're done yet again, it just feels like they are repeating the same thing and hitting you over the head with it, and it's just not original and therefore not strong enough to justify this sequel. Also, like I mentioned, this film really heavily revolves around this antique store that you would have seen in the trailers, and it's really repetitive storytelling because this film is literally beat for beat going to get into the antique store, get out of it, get back in again, get back out again. And it's literally, that is a big part of this film. It's just repeating that same formula, going back and forth into the store, out the store, and it just gets really boring. And having this whole film pretty much take place inside of this antique store, it's a very small environment, so it becomes incredibly boring after a really short while. And while, yes, Toy Story 3 did mostly take place inside of Sunnyside Daycare, the beginning and the end of the movie took place in these bigger environments, which really opened up the world. And also Sunnyside itself was a big environment, especially for a toy. We were able to explore a lot of that idea. So with this movie taking place in a really small antique store, it just felt really closed in, and again, just boring after a while. This film also introduces a lot of new characters, like I mentioned in the beginning, and I didn't find any of them to be particularly memorable or funny, which is a real shame, because that's all I heard about them going into the film. Especially characters like Duke Kaboom, played by Keanu Reeves, who, granted, I found him very amusing, but I only found him very amusing because it was Keanu Reeves' voice coming out of the character. Same goes for Ducky and Bunny, voiced by Key and Peele. They weren't particularly funny either. It was just because it was Key and Peele and their chemistry that made it kind of funny. And the same goes for all the characters. Like I said, Gaby was not a good villain. And I feel like the only new character who they introduced who I actually felt was kind of strong was the character called Giggle McDimples, who was with Bo Peep. I think she was a good addition. I liked her bond with Bo Peep and also her kind of eventual bond with Woody. She was the only real character that really stood out to me in regards to the new ones. But in regards to the rest of them, they were just a really disappointing cast of characters, and given the fact that the original cast characters like Mr. Potato Head and Ham and Rex are barely in this movie, it feels like they were just incredibly shortchanged for worse additions. And speaking of new characters, Forky is a huge part of this film, and Forky was a very controversial character going into this film, and he was just so annoying. And he is supposed to be annoying, but he wasn't annoying in a way that was slightly endearing. He was annoying in a way that was just frustrating because he was so stupid and so dumb. And obviously, it's understandable why he's stupid because he's literally just born. He's very, very naive in that sense. But his character, there's a particular scene in this film which is kind of a run-on gag, and it goes on for far too long. It's not funny to begin with, and it goes on for about 5 minutes. It's like a 5-minute montage, and they still have themes of it throughout the rest of the movie, and it's not funny, it doesn't work. Like I say, I think Tony Hale does a really good job of voicing him, and I really like how he brings out the anxietal side of Forky, but the actual character itself, really annoying and did not work at all for me. And also, this film has Buzz, of course, in the film, and he is just an absolute idiot in this movie. They turn Buzz into this stupid imbecile of a character, which I don't understand why we're doing this again. We had that in Toy Story 1. That was his arc in that first film, and ever since then, Buzz has been a strong and competent character within the series and within the group of the toys. So they turn him into this complete idiot, again, with this joke that they introduce about the inner voice. Again, I won't go any further into it, but they introduce this idea of the inner voice, and Buzz becomes completely fascinated by it, he becomes completely obsessed with it, and it makes him a complete idiot. And I don't understand why we're doing that exact character beat again, because we already did it back in the first film back in 1995. Why are we repeating it again here in 2019? It's not necessary, and again, it makes Buzz seem completely incompetent. When you look at him in Toy Story 2 and 3, that's just not the case at all. So the fact that they are completely reversing everything they've done, all the character work they've done with him over the years, to make him a bumbling idiot again, it just felt kind of disrespectful to the character. Overall, I found Toy Story 4 to be exactly what I feared it would be. It was a film that felt unnecessary, and it feels tacked on, and it feels like an addition that was done purely to make money. And I feel like while, of course, all movies are made to make money, you can feel like when there's a certain passion behind it. And like I said, although I feel like there are so many people who are loving this movie, who are enjoying it, saying it's one of the best Toy Story movies, if you feel that way, I'm so happy for you. I really wish that I could be in that same mindset. But in the end, I found this movie immensely disappointing. I feel like it's so forced, and I feel like everything that's in this movie has been done before, and even the new ideas, while some of them are cool, like I say, Bo Peep and her whole story, I really enjoyed, and I do like where the movie ends. It's just getting to that end point. That whole journey felt so superfluous, and I feel like this movie is just a tacked on addition to what was the perfect Toy Story trilogy. So have you guys seen Toy Story 4? If you have, make sure to let me know all your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on this one. So make sure you let me know everything in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, if you want to see more movie reviews from me, be sure to subscribe. And I hope to see you guys again next time.